Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. All right, I was gonna say something and I just had my brain just totally reset on me. Take two. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. On today's upload, we're gonna answer a few different questions. Is this the best aluminum replacement radiator on eBay for a B6 S4? 2, how do you replace the radiator in your B6 S4? These things love to break right here, and it's crazy common. I've done it on more cars than I have fingers and toes. And 3, well, how do you get this sucker into service mode? All of this and a lot more. So let's dive straight into replacing the radiator so that I can get my shit box on the road, because I just found out this is what it looks like outside. Oh yeah, this one's broken too. Happens to be a 4.2. And that one over there is broken, which also happens to be a 4.2. But yo, there's the proper amount of snow outside, and that's a little worrisome to me, because I'll be real, only Audi I have right now, only functioning vehicle I have right now is my 270 rear-wheel drive all-road, and I have no room to get it inside. So this needs to get done so we can do a thing. We need to get it fixed. Let's get it done. Inside of this box, we have the GPI Racing aluminum radiator. Now, this radiator comes with a couple corks. One of those corks being that if you read the reviews, there's about 8 different manufacturers or businesses, quote unquote, that are selling this same exact radiator. There are multiple companies selling the exact same thing with different reviews on the same exact thing. Well, it concerns me because I don't actually know what I'm getting. Let's get this thing unboxed and then probably reshoot an intro, because then we'll have this product that we could show and explain a little bit cooler, which should maybe improve how long people stay and watch. I don't know, maybe it's just the quality of content. Oh. What do we have? Whoa. Da-da. Honestly, this is not that bad. I think this is gonna work. It's got the right type of in-tank connections on it, the little slip fit ones on both sides. They're in the right place. I mean, it looks like a radiator. It seems like a radiator. It's got a bunch of fittings like a radiator. I got lost earlier. I was trying to do an unboxing little thingy thing, you know, trying to, yeah, do that shit. Anyway, let's get this bumper cover off. It's not like super duper difficult, but it's got a few little steps. So let's get done. All right, tires off, easy. We need to get, like I said, we need to get this bumper cover off. In order to get that thing off, we kind of got to take this fender liner out a little bit. Ugh. Ooh, is that my tire? Yeah. That's what happens, kids, when you put too small tires and not enough, too big of tires on your car. These actually shouldn't be on this car, they're too tall. But here nor there, we have to deal with what we got. So let's pull these Torx screws all out, and then we can get this liner out of here. In case you're wondering, they're T25s. There's sometimes a little clip here. Mine's missing for whatever reason. It probably broke. For those of you who've never done this before, in here, there is a washer tank reservoir. There's a tab on the side of there. We need to pull that tab, and I'm gonna forewarn you, you need to be kind of careful here, because if you go too much with this, you're gonna make a huge mess, right? But at the same time, we gotta pull this thing out far enough so that we can get to 3 10mm bolts that are back there. Audi literally, I swear, had a CAD design when they said this, and they say, all right, engineers, here's your body. Make everything fit that we need inside of it. And then more engineers went back to the table and was like, okay, we got you. That's my bad German accent there for you. But they go back to the drawing board like, all right, here we go, let's do it. Blocking one. Oh well. Shit. Well, at least one fell out, I guess. So the last thing on this corner we need to do is we need to pull this, just this lower part out and give it a little bitty tug, like that. And that is gonna release it from those panels right there. Now, not all bumper covers are a pop out and you'll be okay. If you get into some of these other ones, like this thing's got a tab in it. I think those have a tab. Actually, I don't think those have a tab. I think those are just like these. If you get into your older C5s and your B5s, they actually the whole bumper cover has to slide and lock in. But for the most part, we just gotta do the exact same thing over here. All right, a little bit easier to see where they're at on this side. Same amount, 1, 2, 3, 4, right down there in that little cubby there. There we go. Oh shit. Same thing as the other side, we give this a little tug. There we go. All right, so full disclosure moment here. You're supposed to have bolts that actually go up through here that run and hold the bumper cover in place. There's one on this side and one on this side. For any multitude of reasons, this car doesn't have it, so we're gonna skip that step. But if you have them in your car, know that you need to take your fog light covers out to get to them, both sides. And then right up through there, there's a hole. Once again, can't do this because we don't got it, but there is a couple wiring harnesses behind here. Nothing too crazy, but we do need to get them off. We should just be able to pull it straight off. Oh, you're under there. Oh, is that what's attached to it? Uh-huh. Oh, womp womp. All right, I screwed up. We'll be right back.
20 minutes later.
All right, take two. In case you didn't know, you have coolant. In case you didn't know, you have wiper fluid in your bumper cover. All right, moving on. First thing we're gonna have to move out of our way is fan controller, power steering, cooler. All this stuff can just get slid off to the side, and we need to take off these couple little brackets here. So let's get those off, see what's what. P.S. Your air conditioner, when you go to do this, we're not gonna disconnect it per se. We're just gonna kind of just like slide it and mingle it out of the way because we don't want to have to recharge it. So we need to take these guys off right here. Now, these little guys are, I think, T15s maybe? T20s? There's one here, one down here. That one is irrelevant. There's one here, and then there's also one here. And then this whole thing will pop up and out. So, let's do this. I was actually really scared that this one right here, this one is the whole reason why I didn't do this, because I was afraid of what was behind it. Pull that off of there. Let's set this off. So I have a pretty good feeling that we're not gonna be able to put these back in, but I don't know it yet. So for the time being, we're not gonna really just chuck anything here. That's the problem with all this eBay stuff, is you never quite know how it's gonna fit back together. Let me be clear, it's not even like eBay stuff, it's just products have like a in order to make a product, you have to develop it, right? Like you have to go through the process of testing, fitting, everything else. How well does it work? Well, in some cases it's simpler instead. Like I have a prediction, these, since they are Torx screws, matter of fact, let's get these out here. We got 1, 2, 3. Oh wait, we need to take off the power steering cooler first. So we'll get back to this. But long story short, these go into a plastic housing and they're a coarse thread in there. The radiator we've already unboxed. I'm willing to bet it's gonna require me to find some 10 millimeters, which once again, not the end of the world, but it is modifications that you need to be aware of when you're doing this stuff, because otherwise you're sitting there with your thumb up your butt and you're like, what do I do now? So we're more or less trying to prevent it. Let's get ourselves a 10 mil to take those ones off and a 10 mil to take those ones off. And we should just be able to slide this guy off to the side. So down here, this little guy, this is your IAT sensor. So, not IAT, ambient air temp. I've said this before on these clips, you know, people fight and fight and fight with these things, but if you push them in a little bit and then pull your tab, they usually come right off, but yeah, that works too. So let's slide that there, and we should, I almost forgot that one. Don't forget this guy right here. And we should go slide this right out of there. We're not trying to slide it like a crazy amount, but we just need it out of the way enough that we can keep stripping this thing down, because the radiator on this actually comes out the front of the car. If you haven't been able to, if you haven't figured that one out yet, we don't actually have to take the core support completely off to do this. So get this little guy out right here. Remember, on these clips, push it in, then pull your tab, and it'll come right off every time. The fan control module, we can also just disconnect, and we can, there's a bracket that bolts down right underneath there. Well, I was going to go with option 1. Let's go with option 2. 2 bolts right down there, 1 bolt right there. Take this whole thing and just... Ew. Yeah, this is grody. Look at that shit. Ew, yummy. Yummy, yummy, yummy. This is what causes eventually things not to work right. This core has seen better days. Man, I wish I would have seen this before. Let's replace it while I'm here mentality says, just go ahead and put a new one in. Downside to that is I actually have air conditioning problems, and I should take care of a couple other things while we're in here. Oh, let's get back to it. All right, here we go. So we need to take this T30, that one, that one, that one out. Ooh. We got our boy, let's do it to it. Now the plan here is that we should have enough room to, yeah, maybe not. This line right here might give us some troubles. I don't know, we might pull this off. Yeah, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. That radiator's also seen better days. Look at you, you nasty old girl. Ugh. All right, pull that trim off of there. Somebody, I'm sure, says, oh, that comes off in step 47. Now, I'm gonna be clear. I've never worked for Audi. I'm not one of the, I'm a young Audi tech that's master certified. No, not me. I have just been turning wrenches and turning wrenches literally since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. Have you ever seen that scene out of Men in Black where Will Smith tells the world that this is what happens when you throw goldfish down a toilet? So, I'm the reincarnation of that metaphoric goldfish of this is what happens when you allow a child to be all about taking shit apart. When you have that child that takes everything apart and puts it back together, and you're telling them if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, I'm that kid 30 years later, like full stop. I'm that kid. I'm what happened to that kid 30 years later when you told him this stuff. So my moral of my story is anybody can do this shit. You just got to have either the drive to just take your shit apart nonstop and figure out how to put it back together, and know that screwing up is part of the learning curve, or you've watched this video already through and through 10 times and you're like, I got this, I can do this. Just know that I didn't know what I was doing most of the time when I do any of these things. Anyway, let's keep going. All right, so we need to drain this. All honesty though, I have no idea how much coolant's actually even in it. The leak is, so with the leak being so high up already, I'm assuming the radiator's probably, the whole system is empty to about here, which that's fine. At least it's got something in it. But if you've never drained the coolant on one of these 4.2s, the drain port is actually very cleverly placed. It's on the bottom of the thermostat housing, which is right here, which the cool part about this thing and where the thermostat housing is located is, unlike some cars like your older B5, C5 stuff and a lot of other manufacturers, they put the drain petcock on the, usually on the radiator intakes. Now the problem with that is a lot of them are made of plastic, and when you undo them a lot, they break really, really easily. So I commend the Audi engineers on putting the drain for the coolant system Not only is it made of metal, but it's in a proper, easy to access space. Good job, guys. You did something right. I mean, you did the whole car right, but that one is like, you were thinking about the people who had to work on this. Cause I swear most of the time you don't. Oh. One of these days I'll get to chat with one of them in person and we'll have real conversations over a pint or two. Let's get that bolt out, let's get a pan, and hopefully not make a giant mess. All right, you ready to drip, you ready to go. Let's get me out of here. I want to be empty. You know, I just realized I would have been smart. I would have taken the cap off of there so it's not like ugly on itself here. You know what? We're gonna do that. Let it flow, let it flow, let it flow. Let's make that. All right, quick little tip here. These things love to get stuck. Give this whole little contraption for your end tank where you're doing a little spray with WD.
Step mechanic unstuck.
Yeah. All right. So we have to get out these little guys right down here. You guys can't see them for sure. We need, anyway, we got to get this thing out of here. And what's that? There we go. So they're supposed to just come out nice and easy, but this one's obviously rusted. Might actually throw that in the sonic cleaner. We gotta get this off. Now, these guys down here, these ones have never been off on this car. So, and if they're probably like yours, they're gonna be a pain in the ass to get off, full stop. Like, I cut a screwdriver down many, many moons ago. Get our little bitty hammer here to do this because, hold on, let's just chat about it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna aim for the corner of this on the plastic here, on the flat plastic. Don't take a screwdriver to this, because you end up, what happens is the screwdriver acts like a chisel and then it just breaks everything and you're really up creek, because now you're replacing a radiator hose also. What we're trying to do is not break the radiator hose. The end tank, if it gives, whatever, we can get that out. But we need to get this guy out as cleanly as possible. So, trying to find y'all a home. Like I said, the goal is to just tap on the flat plastic. I'm not trying to beat the crap out of it here, but we are trying to walk it off. These things, if you've ever taken them apart, personally, I'm a big fan of Vaseline. So this side, a little bit more difficult, but pretty much the same process. We got to get the clip out. Our clip is actually underneath of here. It's honestly simpler. I should have just taken it out to start with, but I didn't. So it is what it is. Yeah, let's lower this thing down real quick and we'll take this cover off of there. Let's get these out here. 2 T25s. We should just be able to pop this off up here. That piece will slide out. We should, yeah. There's our clip. All right, now that plastic's out, we have a lot easier access to our lock. Bada bing. Try to be able to pull it straight up. Come on, dude. There we go. They're supposed to just pull up and lock into their place. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. This is gonna be that moment where I'm gonna interject a pre-warning tip for those of you who are watching this beforehand, knowing that you've got a problem that you need to address. This fill neck tube right here is replaceable. This fill neck tube is replaceable. And this one is known for breaking. This one is really known for breaking. And they make an aluminum one for this. This one, they don't make an aluminum one, I think, yet. Maybe Dorman might, actually. Wait, I think I have one in the trunk. Hold on. I had a lot of shit in my trunk. You can tell a lot by a man by what he keeps in his trunk. For instance, this car had an oil coolant problem. How do you know? There's 2 jugs of coolant in the trunk. Anyway, yeah. I guess I don't have one in the trunk. I thought I did. They make a Dorman part. If I can find the part number, I will make sure to put a link in the description. When these break, just replace it with a, it's a cast one. It'll never break again. This nipple is what breaks all the time. And on this end, this elbow right here has a tendency of breaking and starting to squirt coolant also. So just something to generally to note. Now that we got that one out, I'm a fan of removing them when trying to take the hoses off. I know you're not supposed to have to. All right, well, I guess we're just gonna leave it like it there. You're supposed to just have to pull them up, lock them into place right there. And there's a little tab on the side. That's all as well, it's in well. That's all you're supposed to have to do. So, since it's being a pessimist, we'll give it a couple taparoonies and see what happens here. And get to the bottom. Hey, it came loose. Look at that. Look at that. Nice. So on this one, we were able to get to the bottom down here and give it a couple taps and the top right up in that corner. You always want to kind of pick 2 points so you can kind of walk things off. Even if those points are somewhat close to each other, I've always found that it's better than banging on one spot. Now that that's out, that one's out, we should just be able to pop that clip, pop those 2 clips right out, and this thing should just lean forward and fall out. At least I think, unless I forgot something. Let's find out real quick. So these little guys right here, clever. Be right back, we're gonna get another screwdriver, because a long time ago I figured out a trick to them.
20 minutes later.
Another thing I just noticed also is there's no lock on this. So there's an orientation lock right here. That is not on there. I don't think that's gonna be a big deal, but that does mean that this is gonna be able to rotate. I'm a little concerned about that. All right, let's check this one and see what we got. Let's measure this diameter. That's 32 also. This one is like 32.8. Now, we're talking like that much, about 0.70 millimeters, 0.7 millimeters, 0.6, which it is a lot, but it's not a lot. This one also does not have that locking tab on it either. I don't know if those are gonna be a problem or not, but they are just here. These are things that we need to note because they're different. And some of you might not wanna venture down what may have to happen. I don't know what's gonna happen. We're gonna find out together, but like, this is the real of, is this thing junk? Or is it a quality product that we can make work that has nuances that are factory extra? Lack factory extra nuances, I guess. I don't know. All right, let's keep going here. So one thing I was concerned about was I noticed this was a smaller size than, hopefully I don't leak coolant everywhere. Am I going to? It looks like these are a different size, which has me a little concerned-ish, not really. Trim like half of it off, this pin will still slide in. So my other concern is this side here, and I was looking at this, and like I thought, they are all 10 millimeter. These are all M8x125 threads, I guarantee it. Where on this piece, the 2 up here, those were 10 millimeters, the couple here, and these, but these are all different size screws and everything's gonna be 10 mil. So it's not the end of the world. We can definitely fix and make most of this probably a little bit larger on the diameter of the hole. Actually, if we check, we can measure this. It was like 420, I think. These are like 5.0, so another 0.8 mils or so that we're gonna have to drill out most of these brackets. Not the end of the world, but at first glance, should fit. Other than that, I'm not too worried about these pins down here. We can actually grab one and check the sizing on those. And pull one out there right here. Pretty sure these are just gonna fit. Yeah, actually kinda loose. Oh, that's legit. All right, so maybe it needs to go up farther on here, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I think we're gonna just have to kind of, to a degree, send it and see what happens. I think the only thing that might stand in our way is these end tanks. And that is what I don't know. For right now, I'm gonna get this stuff cleaned up. Probably it'll be tomorrow because it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I need to go home and go to bed so I can do business things tomorrow. When I come back tomorrow, we'll get this whole sorted out. Anyway, I'll see you in the morning.
Day 2.
The battery died. Hopefully we caught that last bit. I was saying that essentially for what I paid for it and where I got it and based on reviews and just my general understanding of, you know, how stuff is made to be cheaper. I kind of expected what I'm getting. So far though, that said, nothing is to the point where it's so drastic that it would be the end of the world and I would be I'm really upset about it. Like, let's get this thing installed and let's figure out what I gotta do. I think the next step here is gonna be to mark this out and just trim it down some, get it out of the way. Let's do that. At least my thought here is if I can take this bracket out and I can test fit the radiator without the bracket in there, you know, it might make my life a little bit easier. Might not, but we're gonna find out either way. That one's tight. Could probably take an impact to just get it out a lot easier. Ah, there we go. All right. So, obviously 3 T45s in there, and that bracket looks like should just be able to take that off. Let's try this radiator again. All right. New problem. That's gonna be higher than that, and that is technically all the way down there, and now we're running into the headlight here being the problem. So this is gonna have to get cut no matter what it looks like, which is fine. I'm not stressing that I have to cut this thing. I'm more stressing the rest of the fitment. That looks like it actually needs to come down some, and it still rubs on this bracket here, which that's definitely a little bit of an issue. All right, that bracket's out. This side looks like it's gonna clear fine, but this side looks like it's like 4 feet higher than everything else, I swear. So that's gonna be a little bit of an issue. And then this right here is still touching that side, so, but it's getting closer. By the way, look who showed up. Figure out what we're gonna have to do next. I think the next thing here on the agenda is gonna be to have to trim this side down. This bugs me though, that's too high. I might have to cut this off and lower it, which is kind of a deal breaker for me. Like, full stop. That means real modifications, and that means phoning friends and doing other things that normally.
But why is it sitting, like, you can see the whole thing is sitting cut.
Yeah, you are right. Well, I don't think you should, that's a bad line. This line, that's a real line, and that is 2 fingers there and 1 finger there. I didn't even notice it was that crooked until he pointed that out. Wow. It's like the whole thing is twisted. All right, so I think overall my decision is gonna be, I am gonna trim this little bit out here, because here's what I'm thinking. I can pull the headlight out, that takes like a minute and a half to pull out. And we can finish trying to fit this guy in here. If it fits and everything clips up, then I'm down to clown and cut the radiator. Because another thing I noticed, factory one to the outside is 29 5/8 we'll call it. This one is almost 31 inches. So this definitely needs to be cut down. As well as the width of this is like 17 and a half. It's the right size all the way across. I mean, same size. But when you compare it to this one is like 18, almost 18 and a half. It's like 1 3/4 inches. And then this one is about the same. So core's 29 and a half on this one. And if we measure the core actual, we're more like 28 and a half, give or take. So I think we're okay. Do I think it's actually bigger? No, not enough to truly matter. Honestly, the amount of effort that I'm having to go through to put this thing in there, sales side to a customer, I probably wouldn't do it unless there was some extinguishing circumstances and this is what they honestly wanted or had or whatever the case may be. Okay, yeah. But for 90% of my customers, I would just put a factory one right back in. It's a much easier fit than what's gonna be involved with doing this. If you're trying to do this on like a 1-day affair, need it in and out, just get a factory plastic in-tank one. These eBay aluminum ones, this one, if this one has anything to do with the quality of the rest of them, I would be questioning it unless you, frankly, are a little bit savvy at modifying things and kind of piecing things together and trial and error without too much detriment. We've got this here. I'm gonna keep pressing forward because, well, that's the type of person I am, and I'm gonna see what it takes to get this thing actually in the car. If it's let's put it this way. I'm not gonna cut anything on the car that's gonna ruin the car permanently. I refuse to cut the headlights. I will not cut those brackets. I will leave the brackets off before I'll modify them. But this core, you know what? I'm okay with trimming a little plastic off. That's not really the end of the world to me. That's more like the scar tissue after surgery, in my opinion. So even if we had to put it back together, once again, it wouldn't be the end of the world here. So let's get to cutting, shall we? I love this tool. Yeah, let's go. This is not too bad. Kind of follows the contour of things a little bit better there. This side, if we really don't need to go up any, but we definitely came over some more here, so perfect. Let's see how it fits. Ah, there we go. Now we're in there. There it kind of is, if you wanted to know. It's still really, it's like kind of catching almost. Needs to come back this way some. There needs to be some sort of stop down there. Mind you, I took the other one out because I couldn't get the height of here below, and our fitment was off. Now you see how we can get 2 fingers almost all the way across there? The impact sensor, that guy can be moved. That's no big deal. We can just unbolt it and slide it off to the side and put it someplace else. Zip ties away. Yes, technically that does affect our airbag, but this is my car, and if you're doing this, there's a disclaimer in the bottom of the description that says, well, if you didn't read it, well, you don't know this, but there is a disclaimer down there. It says, if you do what I do, it doesn't always mean it's right. Yeah, so if we need to move that, we'll find someplace, another safe place. But the impact sensor, for all like full disclosureness, it's designed to be in a spot so that when you get in certain types of collisions, whether it's on the side of your car, front of the car, whatever the case may be, it can help you, it'll help. It will give the right airbags the ability to deploy under certain circumstances. So like placement of crash test sensors has all been done by crash test specialists. So actually kind of sounds like a fun job. I don't know about you guys, but at least I think it'd be a fun job. Let me know in the comment section. What do you think? Crash testing, as long as you're not the dummy? Fun job? Not so fun job. I don't know, I might cry a lot because of all the cars I'm destroying, but here nor there. Anyway, let's just see what happens when we try to install this here. Let's see if this will fit on there. Okay. The jury's in, and we have some problems. All right, let's talk about radiators, differences, OEM ones, cheap eBay replicas, and things that you should probably consider. I'm not gonna say wasted money because it's really not a waste. It's more of like somebody had to do it, somebody needed to document it in a manner that I couldn't find. So if I couldn't find it, I feel like maybe you guys had a difficult time finding it also, but here nor there. Let's answer some questions here. And the first question is, will this bolt in the car as it sits in replacement of the factory one? The answer is no, and let me show you what all I have found, all the differences, and they're drastic enough that what it would take to do this outweighs the cost of buying a direct fit one, whether it's an automatic or a manual. I digress. Let's get into why this just doesn't fit. First thing, this is a OEM replacement for another Audi radiator. Just as reference, this thing fits on here. Let me line up my marks beautifully, right? Pop the lock, comes right off. Same thing over here, lock in, perfect, right? So, using this one as a reference, we go over here, lock in. There is no place that lock fits. Same thing over here. No place that lock fits. That's problem number one. So that led me down the rabbit hole. I'm gonna bring this up because this fitment of this one led me down the rabbit hole of this one when we were test fitting the radiator in the car. All right, battery changed. Okay, let's talk pricing. What does it take? What would it take to possibly put this thing in there if I wanted to? first thing it's gonna take is somebody with a TIG welder. You're gonna have somebody, you're gonna have to know somebody or be able yourself to TIG weld the parts that are gonna require. I went down this a couple different routes. First, I thought about chopping these off, replacing them with a -20 fitting that allows for internal threads so that I could put, say, maybe like an ORB on there. At the end of the day, the connection that needs to be replicated would be this joint right here, which sits at a weird 45-degree angle, and it needs to be able to attach to the rubber hose. Okay, so because of that, they make fittings. There are fittings on the market that are called smooth barb. They're made for smooth line radiator hoses, and they come in 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, 1 5/8. Like, those are available, and some of them go to -16, and the pricing on them is about $20 to $35 a piece. We need 2. The catch here is for a -16, they're that $20 to $35 price point, whereas the ones that are -20 are more in that $45 to $65 price point, and we need 2. So we're instantly in a price range of, depending on how we go about it, I'm assuming -20 is the right size, not -16. So you figure at that alone, we're at least $100 to $140 in after tax and shipping at bare minimum, just for the 2 fittings to get essentially this end with an AN line, a dash AN of some sort on the other end to connect it just to the radiator hose. We haven't even connected it to the radiator. So then what do? Well, we got to connect it to the radiator. So we need a bong to fit on here that allows something to attach to. 2 options. We can either go internal thread where we can screw something in to then adapt it, or we can go with just a normal insert image weld on -20 fitting. Get 2 of those. You can buy some cheap ones, which, for the record, cheap ones have a tendency of, like, if the aluminum is not of high quality, you end up then twisting the metal, and you can ruin your entire project in day and have to cut it off and start over. So anytime you need weld-on fittings, highly recommend 6061 steel, 6061 aluminum. Get something tough and hard that's durable. So that takes us out of the cheap price point of $10 a piece to more like $20 a piece. So 2 fittings, $40. The internal ones are about $50 for 2 of them. Once again, comes down to quality of the material. Another $100 in product, basically, with tax and shipping, on top of the $140 when we add to it. So that's another $240 on top of the $230 radiator that I already got. So now we're at basically round up to $500 in this project, and a automatic one. I just ordered it. Rock Auto, car parts. You can get some eBay ones. The thing you have to realize when ordering from these sites, though, is they suck at acknowledging the difference in chassis. And I've found that the A4 ones are also listed in there, and the A4 ones, for reference, I happen to have a B6 A4 here. There's one on this side and one down there. On an S4, them on opposite corners. So if you're ordering one from Rock Auto or Car Part or any of these sites, be cautious. Make sure you look at the pictures. Make sure you read the descriptions, that everything is offset in the right order, because you can get an A4 one under the impression you were getting one for an S4, and then you got a whole nother problem because you ordered the cheapest one. Facts. Look at it. I promise. That's not right if you're looking at them.
2,000 years later.
We're back. About a week and a half later. Maybe a week later. Not 100% sure. Anyway, we have finally got the replacement radiator for the B6. Now, I'm just gonna jump right into this because, you know, like, I wanna get about it. Couldn't find a knife. So, inside of this box is what is known as this is a Parts Geek. Hold on, I wanna make sure, okay. So I bought myself one of these Nizen's radiators. Tape in the box, come on, there we go. Automatic radiators are, for whatever reason, cheaper than the radiators for a manual car are. Why? The only reason I can think of is because there are fewer manuals out there than there are automatics. It's the only logic that I've got behind it. That said, the radiator that we've ordered is very well packaged. Pete 6. Okay, let's get this thing out of here now. There's even more packaging. Man, they are good. Okay, they want to make sure this thing gets here intact. All right, what do we got? All right, now that we got it unboxed, it's official, it's ours, we own it. Let's compare this thing to the one that we took out. I already kind of let the cat out of the bag. My car is a manual car. The radiator that we got is for an automatic car. And at first glance, this is what is different, the oil coolers. Specifically the ones for the transmission. There's some legitimate reasons of why somebody might want to add an oil cooler down the road or even use an automatic. You could add the cooler for, say you wanted to plumb this with your power steering cooler or an added cooler, or you decided to, I don't know, you needed something cool that you wanted to keep the same temperature as your radiator, which is, you know, a little around 200, give or take. Some point of this is, it's this one to replace it is like 280 if you stick with the Nissan's brand. If you want to go with an automatic one, which will bolt directly in, and I'm going to prove that right here in just 1 second, this one is only $180, at least at current value. By the way, here is our part number and our date of birth and our item number. The box, there it is, 60329 Nessens. It's weird though because it labels it as an Audi A4 with a V8 in it, so it's kind of funny. Technically the A4s, I mentioned this earlier, the radiator intakes are on a completely different side of the car. Both of them are on the driver's side, whereas the S4s have one on the driver lower and one on the passenger upper. Regardless if you're an automatic or a manual car, it doesn't matter. We still have the ports for it. Now, you might be saying, Jack, this won't fit because we don't have the cutouts for the automatic lines. You would be wrong there. So the way the automatic lines run, where's the core? Yeah, this is Donnie's core. So Donnie's car is an automatic, and those lines run right through these two little extra port windows right here. Seen a different way, one here and the other one's right down here. Technically, didn't think your car was already equipped with it, you'd be wrong. You actually do have them. It's not that big a deal to do this. It's actually more common than you think in a lot of cases. This is one of those things that some shops might just do and not even really tell you, unless, I don't know, some shops would tell you, hey, we can get an automatic one for a cheaper price and leave it up to you. Me personally, on my own stuff, yeah, I'm 100% doing this because this affects nothing that's relevant here. I'm sure somebody might argue that, hey, moisture, condensation is gonna get down in here, ultimately eating the core from the inside out or eating the in tank. Okay, sure. I will agree with that is a plausibility, and to fix that problem, we are gonna put a couple silicone plugs in it. Problem solved. So a couple things you might notice here from earlier in the video is I've already put a few of this back together. Like I already put headlight, the brackets all back in. I tried to get some of the headlight cleaned out there. We got these brackets all cleaned up, and we cleaned up all of this tray down here, which was just gummed up with old antifreeze. I don't remember if I showed you guys this, but we do have a little extra scar tissue over here from me trimming this housing away. I tried to do whatever it took without damaging the GPI racing radiator, because here, if it didn't fit, I wanted to be able to return it. In the grand scheme of that, we ended up keeping it. They didn't ask for it back, so maybe we will go through the effectively, I didn't pay for it at that point. It was a free test and review, and they'll probably sell, who knows? They'll probably sell at least a couple hundred, because people are gonna look at this video and be like, see me install it, and then they never get to this part, and they're like, ah, well, shit, once they buy it and realize it, and then they go back and watch the rest of it, or who knows, any number of things. We need lube. We need to lube up both of our inlet fittings. You wanna make sure they are, and I say that because the O-rings inside of these two clamps here, sometimes they can get nicked, sometimes they're worn. If you notice that you had any leaks beforehand coming from your intakes, definitely check those out now, because you need to replace those if you don't. You can buy in-tank ends, depending on what, you can buy not in-tanks, you can buy these radiator hose ends. There's a handful of different ones that you can get on the internet, different places. I think ECS offers some. I know there's a bunch of them all over Amazon. They make them as Dorman part numbers. But for the most part, we don't have to do any of that. All of our stuff already works, so we are good to go. Less of lubing the shaft. Also, something I probably didn't mention earlier that I probably should have. You don't have to disconnect your air conditioning, nor do you need to disconnect your power steering. The only fluid that you'll lose if it's a manual is coolant, and if it's an automatic, well, you are gonna lose maybe, we'll say 2 quarts on the extreme side. No, we'll say 3 quarts on the extreme side, maybe 1.5 quarts on the minimum side, but 100% check your transmission levels after this, especially if you're an automatic. If you don't know how to check your transmission level, I believe I've done a video on this on my C5 stuff. You can jump over to the main channel and check that out. There's a whole C5 S6 playlist, and I go over a bunch of different processes on the belt drive V8s, as well as like some of the nuances of like old school, that's funny because the car is 20 years old at this point. Some of the older VCDS methods, for instance, checking your transmission's oil, checking your transmission fluid the right way, because it's not just, oh, it's full. It's gotta be up to temperature as well. So consider watching it. In this case, I won't be going over that. We're just gonna go through a fill procedure and pretty much get this thing back in. Enough of this jaw jacking. Let's get this thing installed here. All right, don't forget your lock on your close clip. Huh? There we go. Perfect. All right, let's try this again here. You might, maybe not. Well, I've got a little bit of, it's kind of weird there. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know if maybe I've got this backwards. Is it backwards possibly? No, I just think this is kind of the Chinese level, the reproduction level here. I'm gonna trim a little bit of this bushing off here and see if I can get this to slide over, because, well, ideally, straight trimming. Hey! Money. All right, let's put this side in. Oh, now you want to be an extra too? You want modded? Is that your deal? You're like, you modded the other one, I want some love. No, you go in the hole. Come on, come on. You know you want to. Give me the wiggle. Oh, you're almost there. Kids, don't try this one at home. This is a trained professional or know that you could screw up moment. We're going to apply just a little bit of pressure here just to make sure we are all the way seated, which I'm pretty sure we are. But then we're gonna try to back it off also. Yeah, we in. Okay, cool. I'll tell you flat out, I've had clamps go on and thought I've had them on and then got the things up to pressure, and there's nothing worse than rupturing or blowing off a line that's in a hard place to reach. Completely sucks. And they always happen at the worst of times. Like times you, oh, I'm good, and you go on your road trip and then boom, you blow it off. And the worst part is you can probably put it together, you just have no fluids to stick in it. So then you're left with coming up with clever means of filling it with fluids. Don't ask me how I know, please. Radiator in, congratulations, boom. You should know how to do the rest of this putting it back together. But if you don't, I'm gonna cut to a time lapse and we are going to bolt all of this back together, and then we'll come back and we'll fill it up with coolant. All right, well, I think we got all the hatches buttoned down. Everything is torqued up. We need to put the bumper cover on, but before we do that, we are going to put the system under vacuum, and we're gonna make sure that everything is mint. It helps when you disengage the locks on the rack the right way. Almost forgot to stick these back in. So in case you're wondering what coolant I'm using, I am using the Peak European Vehicle. I know it's not, G12, sorry. I know it's not G12 coolant, but it is equivalent to it. Prestone also makes this, which if we need some, we have like another half a gallon of this to top this system off with. Wow, that is not that pink. It's kind of like, sort of pink. Like I said, I digress. Oh, screwed the pooch on that one, didn't I? This is pink coolant. It says it's European. Car calls for pink coolant, calls for G12. This is G12 equivalent. And I know there's probably people out there who are not gonna like the fact that I'm putting it in it, but honestly, it's just as good. Fun fact also, I don't know yet here, but I think the old radiator has soiled our spark plugs. So we did get new spark plugs at AutoZone, same place we got the Peak antifreeze, and we're gonna start it up, see what's what. It might need them, it might not need them. Actually, I might take them out just to inspect them one time for the one time, because then I can also inspect the air filter. The catch here is if I do one side, I end up having to do the other side if they're really bad. So I'm kind of like 50-50 because I've already put spark plugs in this thing like 3 times because, well, maintenance things. Oh no, where's my keys? Oh no, they're not in the ignition. Oh no, be right back. I'm in here rummaging around for the keys and they're under my butt. Hey, we got power, look at that. All right, 3, 2, 1. Oh. Figured, it's dead.
20 minutes later.
Hey! It's still misfiring. It ain't that happy. Coolant system is assembled. Doesn't look like we got any major leaks, so we do got a little drip over here. Not quite sure what that's coming from, but that thing does not sound happy. We're just gonna shut it down for the time being. I don't know what's wrong with it. I know it was leaking coolant for a while. I know weird idability, drivability, misfires that it's got were a developed issue. So I gotta go home, make dinner. We'll be back in a moment.
Day 2.
Oh, all right. Well, yesterday did not go as planned. I just, first off, I'm gonna have to apologize because I don't like leaving videos usually incomplete. And in this sense, this video is gonna be left incomplete. The radiator is in. At this point, you should have it in your car. As long as you don't have any other problems like, well, frankly, like what I do, you should be good to go. And thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, you know, bye, peace, manana, you're Audi. But if you wanna see and maybe learn a couple things about your Audi, keep watching because this one is, I've developed some other issues I didn't know I had. So let's chat about it real quick. So unfortunately, mine had a few different codes that were involved with it as well. And I've learned that I have another leak. There is a coolant line right there that is leaking and it's making a mess. That's not all coolant from it. That's actually old coolant and the drip coolant that I don't know why. Normally I recycle it and filter it. That was the whole point here, but I kind of screwed the pooch and just bought new, so it is what it is. Anyway, there's that leak up there. And then something, I think maybe my water pump seal is starting to leak in there. So I've got some new ones. I think we're gonna put them on. I've also got a couple weird misfires and an evap purge code and a bank 1 and bank 2 lean. Now, what's funny about these is that they all just kind of showed up one day. The radiator was fine, everything was fine, and then one day, it just all went to poof. And I was like, okay, that's weird. Like, full stop. You know your boy drove with the check engine light on for a little bit. I shouldn't have. I get it. Had the evap code been in there for a long time? Possibly. Was the lean codes in there for a long time? I hope not. I'm pretty sure I scanned that. I may have screwed up. Probably not. But it still runs. It doesn't knock. I got the throttle body off of it. Something in the intake manifold sounds like it's rattling a little bit, which is kind of weird. I'm gonna go ahead and probably smoke test the car. So I pulled the throttle body off last night. You can kind of get an eye down in there maybe for me. See if you see anything. Oh wow, that is actually a really good view in there. I put the borescope down in there last night. Really didn't see anything rattling or like fluttering or moving. Maybe when I rewind this video and go back and play it again, I'll see something. But like this head sounds mint. This head sounds mint. But you put your head right on this intake and boy, is there a chatter. Like it's consistent. And my first instinct was like, okay, maybe the intake's failing and the diaphragms inside, the flappers inside of it are like falling off. Maybe, but when you look in there, it doesn't look like there's anything really wrong. I've got some evap codes, which are usually correlated here, possibly a gas cap. Statistically, those usually don't go bad that often, but they do go bad and they're easy to check. Matter of fact, let's check ours. You just check that O-ring down there and it looks pretty good. There's also, reading my laptop screen, but these were the codes. I had a 128, a 171, an 1130, a 174. This coolant malfunction system, I'm pretty sure is due to either a bad thermostat or maybe one of the leaks that I found additionally. The evap, this one, the P0441 is the one I was just talking about. So whatever's going on is 100% affecting the entire engine. It doesn't sound like any broken guides or anything like that. When you give it a little throttle, it does come to life. There's only, the thing here is the one part about this whole thing that I got to keep in mind while diagnosing it is that both sides of the engine that are being affected. So there's only a handful of components that affect both sides of the engine overall. So it does kind of limit things. It could have a bad MAF. We could have a massive vacuum leak someplace. We are going to smoke test this thing, and I think that's going to be the last thing before we move it outside. The shop is starting to get busy again. I've got a lot of drop-offs that are coming in. We've got a lot of projects in the shop that need big progress moves made on them, and I don't have any more time to allow for this. So thought I was able to get it fixed, and it just doesn't seem like it's gonna happen that way. So, all right, well, we did a smoke test, and yeah, it ain't leaking nowhere. I did one small little thing, and we're gonna see if it works. I swapped out my evap purge solenoid for a known good one. See if that helps. Oh, don't forget this little thing. That'll definitely cause a problem. Womp, womp, womp. We're gonna see if this helps. Let's see what it does. Womp, womp. Yeah. Oh, the battery died right at the end. Anyway, guys, that's where we're gonna call it good for this one. I hope you were able to get your radiator installed at bare minimum. Know that this is the way life is sometimes. Sometimes we don't get everything figured out in one go. Sometimes we do. Till next time, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing. I'll see you in the next one. Peace. I'm Audi.